The cameras clicked like wild locusts. The velvet ropes were barely holding back a sea of flashing lights and ravenous photographers. On the red carpet, Meghan Markle appeared, radiant in a white Dior gown, hand on her belly. She tilted her head just so, smiled softly, and cradled the curve of her abdomen as though protecting the future king or queen of England itself. It was an image designed to go viral, and it did. But now, years later, as shocking footage circulates of Prince Harry shaking hands with King Charles and receiving what appears to be damning proof against his wife, the world is asking the unthinkable question: was it all an illusion? From Buckingham Palace to Hollywood to private high-security meetings behind royal doors, a scandal is unraveling so surreal it's hard to believe it's not the plot of a Netflix thriller. At the center of it all stands a fractured family, a broken marriage, a disillusioned prince, and a woman accused of constructing a false motherhood using a device most people didn't even know existed, a moon bump. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. But before we dive headfirst into what has become one of the most explosive and polarizing chapters in modern royal history, we must first return to the moment that triggered 1,000 whispers, the moment that cracked the illusion, and possibly the marriage itself. It happened in a garden, of all places, a royal engagement, a casual meeting, or so it seemed. And then, the handshake. King Charles had aged visibly in recent months, the burden of the crown heavier than the golden headpiece itself. But on that day, as he extended his hand to Prince Harry in a public show of reconciliation, something about his demeanor shifted. Gone was the cold detachment many had come to expect from the monarch. Instead, his face softened, his fingers curled slightly as he passed what appeared to be a folded envelope into his son's palm. The cameras didn't catch the exchange, but an aide standing nearby did. His reaction said everything. A blink too long, a subtle tightening of the jaw, and a brief, deliberate glance at Meghan, who stood frozen just a few feet away. She had seen it too, and from that moment on, the illusion began to unravel. What was in the envelope? Why did Prince Harry hold on to it like a sacred relic? And why did Meghan reportedly flee the event within minutes, refusing to speak to anyone as her face paled beneath her designer makeup? According to insider sources, that envelope contained the culmination of a years-long inquiry spearheaded quietly by King Charles himself, a dossier that detailed inconsistencies, testimonies, and images suggesting that both of Meghan's high-profile pregnancies, with Archie and Lilibet, may have been fabricated. It's a statement so jarring it defies belief. And yet, the deeper one looks into the timeline, the visual anomalies, the testimonies of royal staff, and the expert analysis of body movement and prosthetic technology, the more disturbing the pattern becomes. This isn't the stuff of fringe internet conspiracy theories anymore. This has reached the drawing rooms of palace officials, the desks of legal advisors, and even the boardrooms of streaming giants who once placed their trust in the Sussex brand. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The moon bump theory, once dismissed as tabloid nonsense, began quietly, with whispers, social media posts here and there, grainy footage of Meghan bending over, her abdomen appearing to shift, fold, or sway in unnatural ways. At first, it was written off as trick photography or the result of unusual fabric. Then came the sharper videos, slowed down, dissected frame by frame. Footage of her pregnant belly changing shape within days. Reports of bodyguards instructed never to touch her lower back. A video clip where she squats quickly and the bump seems to deflate and shift upwards. People started asking, is this even possible? As it turns out, it is. Moon bumps are real. They are prosthetic pregnancy bellies, often used in film and television productions for actresses playing pregnant characters. They come in different sizes, skin tones, and designs. They can be worn under clothing and even respond to movement in ways that appear natural to the untrained eye. And while it may seem unbelievable that a member of the royal family would ever resort to such deception, what if the motive wasn't malicious? What if it was fear? According to sources close to the situation, Meghan feared rejection from the firm, not just of her as a woman of color, not just as a divorced American actress, but as a woman unable or unwilling to carry children. Allegedly, there was pressure to produce heirs, and when her first pregnancy was announced, It came during a rocky time within the family. She was not yet fully accepted, and many suspect she saw it as a chess move, an ace to play. But then, the inconsistencies started piling up. The birth certificate of Archie was amended after the fact, with Meghan's name removed, replaced by a more formal royal title. When asked about it, the couple gave conflicting stories. There were no hospital photos with medical staff, no traditionally observed departure from the hospital, as is customary for royal births. Instead, everything was shrouded in secrecy. Even the place of birth became a topic of speculation. For Lilibet Diana, the secrecy was even more intense. No medical records were shared. No photographs were taken outside a hospital. The announcement came late, and the press received only digitally altered images with no clear timestamp or location. Many questioned whether the child was born in the U.S. at all, and when Prince Harry was asked in an interview about her birth, his answers felt rehearsed, almost guarded, as though he were avoiding something he couldn't reveal. And now, in the aftermath of the handshake between Charles and Harry, a moment that signaled far more than reconciliation, we are seeing the first signs of a deep, silent war turning against Meghan. The royal family, ever cautious, rarely moves publicly, but they move with purpose. That envelope was not just paper. It was proof. Proof of what, exactly, remains a closely guarded secret. But leaks have already begun surfacing. Screenshots from surveillance footage, partial transcripts from conversations between palace aides, even snippets from what appears to be a background report commissioned by Charles during the Sussex's time in Canada and California. What's emerging is a timeline of events that suggests Meghan may have worn prosthetics, coordinated medical cover-ups, and perhaps even manipulated Harry into silence. And the betrayal is not only Harry's to bear. The public feels deceived. Millions watched that royal tour in Australia, when Meghan, newly pregnant, charmed crowds with her hand gently resting on her stomach. Millions donated to the couple's charitable causes, invested emotionally in their love story, in their fairy tale. For many, the suggestion that any of it was orchestrated is too painful to bear. But stories like these are never black and white. This isn't just about fake pregnancies. This is about power, ambition, legacy, and the cost of royalty. This is about a man, Harry, who walked away from a kingdom and may now be waking up to find he gave everything to someone who never told him the full truth. This is about a father, Charles, who may have sacrificed his relationship with his son to protect the sanctity of the monarchy. And it's about a woman, Meghan, who either became a tragic scapegoat or played the game a little too well. As the royal machine begins to shift gears, we must ask the hard questions. Why now? Why would Prince Harry, who defended his wife against the press, against his family, against a nation, suddenly accept a sealed envelope from the very man who once questioned her honor? What changed? And more importantly, what happens next? Because when the illusion of motherhood is shattered, when a bump turns out to be foam and elastic, the fallout is not just personal. It's institutional. It's generational. And if what's in that envelope is what sources claim, then this isn't the end of Meghan Markle's reign over the headlines. It's just the beginning of her reckoning. Let us now unravel the chapters of deception, power, and betrayal. As we explore one of the most controversial scandals the royal family has faced in generations, it all began with a simple announcement, one that should have been met with unrestrained joy and celebration. On October 15, 2018, Kensington Palace issued a brief but powerful statement. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were expecting their first child. The news came just as the couple was beginning their royal tour of Australia, a trip that would see Meghan feted and celebrated across multiple cities, often with one hand resting protectively on the very subject of the news, her growing belly. And yet, something didn't feel quite right. At first, it was just a whisper, a lingering suspicion that perhaps the bump didn't move as naturally as it should have. Meghan's fashion choices, particularly the tight dresses that emphasized her midsection, seemed to change radically from day to day. Some claimed her bump looked too large for a woman in her early months of pregnancy. Others pointed out that on several occasions, it appeared significantly smaller just days later. And when videos surfaced of her squatting to pick up a fallen flower, only to watch the supposed baby bump shift upwards unnaturally, the questions grew louder. But this wasn't just online rumor mill chatter. Behind palace walls, concerns were beginning to quietly rise. Several royal aides, tasked with managing appearances and protocol during the Australia tour, began taking note of strange inconsistencies. One aide, speaking off the record, reportedly told a trusted royal correspondent that during a morning fitting in Sydney, Meghan's bump had appeared, oddly structured, too firm, too symmetrical, like a padded cushion. This observation was dismissed internally, at least at first. The palace, already strained under the new dynamics Meghan brought into the fold, didn't want more controversy. But that did not stop staff from documenting the strange details. Royal assistants began noting moments when Meghan would walk in one way and emerge later looking visibly different in shape. And although the official line was that the pregnancy was progressing normally, whispers behind the scenes painted a far murkier picture. Public fascination with the Sussexes had hit a fever pitch. Headlines about Meghan's glowing appearance and the miracle baby dominated both tabloids and mainstream outlets. Social media accounts dedicated to her pregnancy sprouted overnight, sharing every new photograph, every wardrobe change, and every speech she gave during the tour. Yet among the admiration and support, a separate undercurrent began to form. One made up of suspicious observers who noticed the unusual movements of her belly, the off-kilter alignment with her posture, and the way she cradled her bump even in moments that didn't require it, almost theatrically. The narrative began to fracture. For every admiring article, there was now a thread dissecting footage, a video zoomed in on fabric folds, and a commentary questioning the physics of her belly. And into this growing divide stepped one of the most damning moments in the controversy, the famous belly fold incident. The scene was Westminster Abbey. Meghan, visibly pregnant and wearing a tight-fitting navy dress, bent down to take her seat. As she adjusted herself, what appeared to be the lower part of her abdomen folded sharply, almost like it was made of foam or rubber. The clip was replayed and reanalyzed endlessly. Experts chimed in. Some doctors claimed that while a fold could happen with loose abdominal muscles, the specific angle and structure of the fold suggested something artificial. One costume designer with experience in prosthetics came forward, anonymously, to say she had worked with similar bumps for television productions. Still, royal defenders pushed back. It's the dress, they said. It's lighting. It's the camera angle. But the questions didn't go away. In fact, they intensified. And this is where things began to get darker, not just for Meghan, but for the institution surrounding her. The royal family, by design, thrives on continuity. Babies are more than personal milestones. They're historical markers, symbols of lineage, legitimacy, and power. Each child born to a senior royal is not just a family member, but a constitutional heir, a public figure before they've even taken their first breath. The idea that a royal pregnancy could be faked, or worse, staged for publicity or manipulation, is so outrageous that it threatens to upend the very idea of monarchy. And yet, the monarchy itself did little to dispel the rumors. Meghan and Harry remained tight-lipped. There were no hospital photo ops like with Princess Diana or the Duchess of Cambridge. No confirmation of medical staff. No videos of labor staff leaving or entering the hospital. The announcement of Archie's birth was unusually delayed and handled in an unconventional manner. Instead of public transparency, the public was handed silence. This only fueled speculation. And some of the most serious doubts came not from the press, but from within the royal apparatus itself. A palace driver later came forward, anonymously of course, to state that during the Australia tour, there were scheduled check-ins at a private facility that was known not for medical care, but for costume fittings and theatrical consulting. On more than one occasion, Meghan's security detail escorted her inside for several hours, but no medical personnel were ever seen entering or exiting. The implication was chilling. Was she being fitted? Adjusted? Others began digging deeper. Meghan's travel schedule, despite her alleged third trimester status, was unusually packed. She flew overseas, attended events, and moved around with the agility of a woman far earlier in pregnancy. Compare this to Kate Middleton, who visibly slowed her appearances and limited travel during her own pregnancies. Meghan, by contrast, seemed to accelerate her public exposure. It was as if the bump was a spotlight, a magnet drawing attention, coverage, and, more importantly, control of the narrative. But if there was any truth to the whispers, Why didn't Prince Harry say something? This is where the psychological component enters. According to a former staff member close to the couple at the time, Harry was infatuated. She was the first woman who made him feel seen, the source said. He trusted her. She gave him purpose. There was little chance, they claimed, that Harry would question anything she told him. And if doubts did enter his mind, he buried them deep, convinced that loyalty to Meghan was his duty, even above loyalty to the crown. It wasn't just about the child. It was about what that child represented. For Meghan, it was legitimacy within a rigid institution. For Harry, it was a new chapter, a family of his own, apart from the one that had hurt him. To question the authenticity of the pregnancy would have meant questioning the foundation of everything they had built together. And so, the bump grew. With each passing month, the scrutiny intensified. The press became more polarized. Some celebrated her defiance of royal norms. Others quietly compiled evidence. Videos emerged of different bump shapes within days of each other. Even the angle of her belly button, which can shift during real pregnancies, was analyzed and compared across images. In one, it seemed outy. In another, flat. In another, completely invisible. Then came the moment on stage. Meghan, seated next to a group of women, adjusting herself slightly. A gentle press of her hand to her abdomen and a small creak, like Velcro shifting, captured in the microphone's sensitive range. It was dismissed, naturally. Perhaps a belt. Maybe a mic wire. But to the growing community of skeptics, it was one more confirmation that they weren't imagining things. And yet, through it all, Meghan never faltered publicly. Her smile never wavered. Her hand never left her belly. To the very end, she played the role with remarkable consistency. And that, perhaps, is what made it so compelling and so dangerous. Because if this was indeed an illusion, it wasn't the kind you stumble into. It was deliberate, choreographed, a campaign of optics that required not just acting, but discipline, control, vision. And now, with Prince Harry's sudden shift, with his silent acceptance of an envelope from the man he once blamed for so much pain, the foundations of that illusion are trembling. People are not just questioning the bumps, they are questioning the bonds, the trust, the motives. In hindsight, the signs were always there. They were just hiding in plain sight. Folded between layers of fabric, tucked beneath custom maternity gowns, blurred into the static of camera lenses. And now, years later, the first pregnancy that once captivated the world is being re-examined with new eyes, hardened hearts, and a single, unrelenting question. What if it was never real? In the hushed corridors of Buckingham Palace, where whispers often carry more weight than official statements, a quiet storm had been gathering for months. For years, royal aides and staff members had witnessed odd behavior surrounding Meghan Markle's pregnancies, but fear and loyalty kept many silent. Now, as the scandal breaks wide open, a number of these insiders are beginning to speak, revealing secrets that hint at a carefully constructed facade and the deep fractures beneath it. It is said that the true workings of any royal household are best understood not by its public-facing appearances, but by the countless staff who move unseen behind the scenes. These are the people who prepare gowns, arrange schedules, manage security, and often witness the personal struggles hidden behind the grandeur. And when it came to Meghan's first pregnancy, several of these aides began to raise red flags quietly, speaking only to trusted journalists and confidants, aware that any misstep could mean instant dismissal or worse. One palace housekeeper, who worked closely with Meghan during the early months of her pregnancy, recounted a particularly strange episode. According to her, Meghan was unusually guarded about any physical contact. Unlike the Duchess of Cambridge, who was often seen being gently touched or even hugged by staff in moments of genuine affection, Meghan reportedly instructed her security detail to keep all hands off her abdomen. At first, this was written off as a personal preference, perhaps a boundary she wished to set in a world obsessed with invasive attention. But for the housekeeper, it was the beginning of something more peculiar. Normally, when a royal is pregnant, there's a warmth, a softness, she said in an interview. You can feel the excitement in the air. But with Meghan, it was all so clinical. No one was allowed near her bump. Even the midwives, who normally have close contact, were kept at arm's length. Another insider, a former personal assistant who requested anonymity, revealed that on several occasions, Meghan was accompanied to private rooms within the palace not for medical checkups, but for what staff described as fittings. These rooms, usually reserved for costume adjustments or wardrobe management, were reportedly the site where Meghan's pregnancy bump was fitted, altered, and sometimes removed. The assistant described the process as meticulous and secretive. Meghan would enter wearing form-fitting clothing, only to emerge later with a bump that appeared more pronounced or differently shaped. Staff were instructed not to discuss these sessions, and cameras were strictly forbidden in those areas. These revelations cast a new light on previously inexplicable incidents caught on camera. For example, during one public engagement, Meghan's bump seemed to change size and position between arrival and departure. Palace staff now explained that such transformations were not accidents or illusions, but the result of precise adjustments behind closed doors. Perhaps the most telling sign came from the private security team assigned to Meghan. A source within that group revealed that they were given strict orders never to touch her belly, but to be on alert for anyone else who might. In other words, if Meghan's bump was prosthetic, the security team's role was to protect the secret at all costs. It wasn't only physical distancing that raised eyebrows. The mood within the palace shifted as well. Several aides described tension and unease around Meghan, particularly after the birth of Archie. The usually warm atmosphere backstage during royal tours was replaced by whispered conversations, sidelong glances, and a growing sense that something was being hidden. One longtime palace aide summed up the sentiment. It felt like we were part of a cover-up. No one wanted to say it aloud, but everyone sensed the truth was different from the story we were told. Even more damning were reports of an unofficial no-go zone regarding Meghan's pregnancy with Lilibet Diana. Staff working at Frogmore Cottage, where the Sussexes resided, were reportedly sworn to secrecy under threat of legal action. A palace insider leaked that security measures around the property increased dramatically during Meghan's pregnancy months, with palace police and private security cordoning off areas that once welcomed family and friends. The source explained, the level of privacy was unprecedented. No visitors, no photos, and no medical staff were ever seen. It was almost like the pregnancy was a secret operation, and it wasn't just staff who noticed. Palace courtiers and royal historians alike observed that Meghan broke with tradition in more ways than one. Royal pregnancies are often public affairs, events attended by close relatives, documented by trusted photographers, and followed by scheduled hospital visits. Meghan, by contrast, held her cards close to her chest. This secrecy only fueled the rumors. Some aides speculated that Meghan might have been under pressure to present a perfect image to the public, while others believed the motivation was more personal: fear of judgment, insecurity, or a desire to control the narrative completely. The question on everyone's lips was the same. Why go to such lengths to hide something as natural as pregnancy? And the answers were complex. Sources claimed that Meghan faced a storm of criticism and resistance from within the royal family, particularly from senior members who doubted her ability to fit into their world. The idea that she might not be able to carry a child naturally, or at all, added a new layer of tension. This speculation was further corroborated by a former royal physician who, speaking on condition of anonymity, suggested that medical complications or infertility struggles might have been part of the reason for the secrecy. Royal pregnancies are rarely private because they represent the future, the doctor explained. If there were doubts or difficulties, it's understandable that Meghan and her team would want to keep it under wraps. But hiding the truth came at a cost. Palace staff who were sworn to confidentiality found themselves caught between loyalty to their employers and a growing unease about the deception. In one case, an aide allegedly leaked a confidential memo circulated within the household, instructing staff not to comment on Meghan's pregnancy or any related rumors. The memo warned that any breach could lead to termination and possible legal action. Despite the threat, the whispers continued. Some aides became disillusioned, feeling complicit in a charade that damaged the monarchy's credibility. Others feared for their own futures, caught in the crossfire of power struggles and media storms. Amid the growing tension, another factor complicated matters: the rise of social media. Where once palace staff controlled narratives through carefully orchestrated photo ops and press releases, The digital age empowered millions to scrutinize, dissect, and challenge every public appearance. Memes and videos analyzing Meghan's bump went viral, shared widely on platforms ranging from Twitter to TikTok. Hashtags like #moonbump and #fakepregnancy trended at times, with supporters and detractors locked in heated battles. In response, Meghan's legal team reportedly engaged in aggressive takedown campaigns, sending cease and desist letters to bloggers and content creators, demanding removal of defamatory material. But attempts to silence the conversation often had the opposite effect, drawing more attention to the issue. Throughout it all, palace aides watched as the tension between public perception and private reality grew. For many, the most painful aspect was the personal toll on those involved. Staff described Meghan as increasingly isolated, guarded, and stressed, traits that, in hindsight, aligned with someone carrying heavy secrets. One senior staffer shared, "She was under immense pressure to keep up appearances. Every day was a performance, and the weight of it showed." And yet, despite the internal turmoil, Meghan maintained a polished public persona. Through interviews, charity work, and public appearances, she projected strength, confidence, and grace. To many, she seemed the very picture of a modern duchess breaking free from the stifling conventions of the past. But behind that smile, the cracks were widening. And as palace staff began to break their silence, a clearer picture emerged. One of a woman caught between ambition, vulnerability, and the impossible expectations placed upon her. As we peel back the layers of secrecy and hear from those who lived through the chaos, one thing is clear. The story of Meghan Markle's pregnancies is far more complicated than the public has ever been allowed to see. One of the most concrete and official records related to any birth is the birth certificate, a document that establishes not only the date and place of birth, but also the parentage of the child. For most royal births, this document is typically a matter of public record, carefully managed and shared to affirm legitimacy and continuity. Yet, when it came to Archie Harrison Mountbatten-Windsor, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's firstborn son, the details surrounding his birth certificate became shrouded in confusion and secrecy, sparking further questions about the authenticity of his birth itself. From the very beginning, there was something unusual about the way Archie's birth was announced and documented. Unlike previous royal births, including those of Prince William's children, who were born with significant fanfare and clear documentation, Archie's arrival was marked by a more subdued and tightly controlled disclosure. The announcement came almost a day later than expected, with a statement revealing that both mother and child were doing well, but with few additional details. The location of his birth, the hospital or residence, was never officially confirmed. Buckingham Palace offered vague statements, and the Sussexes themselves remained silent on specifics, adding to public speculation. What truly stoked the fires of controversy was the birth certificate itself. Shortly after Archie's birth, journalists and royal watchers noted inconsistencies in the official documentation shared by various outlets. For starters, there was no immediate release of a formal birth certificate, as is customary for royal births. Instead, a limited, redacted version was circulated, which omitted some details typically included, such as the place of birth and the attending medical personnel. Adding to this mystery, an unverified copy of Archie's birth certificate leaked online months later. To many, the document looked irregular. The most glaring anomaly was the absence of Meghan's name as the mother. Instead, the mother's name was either left blank or replaced by a generic title such as the Duchess of Sussex. This omission led to speculation about whether Meghan's identity was intentionally concealed. Observers noted that this was an extraordinary departure from royal protocol. The birth certificates of Prince William's children clearly stated their mother's name as Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge. Why then, the difference with Archie? Further complicating matters, the Sussexes reportedly sought legal counsel to block the publication of the birth certificate and other related documents. Legal representatives filed motions against media outlets attempting to disclose full birth details, citing privacy concerns and safety threats. This aggressive legal posture only heightened suspicions. Experts in British law and royal protocol weighed in on the situation. They pointed out that while the monarch's family enjoys certain privileges, birth certificates are generally public records. To suppress the release of such documents is unusual and could be interpreted as an attempt to hide details. Moreover, some sources claim the couple requested an unofficial or surrogate birth certificate, one issued by a private facility or alternative jurisdiction rather than the standard UK registrar. If true, this would mark a significant deviation from royal tradition and further raise questions about the circumstances of Archie's birth. The story took another twist when media outlets published photos of the official registry entry for Archie at a London hospital. The record, as shown in images leaked by an insider, bore a strikingly different format than typical certificates. Handwritten entries rather than printed, dates that didn't align perfectly, and, once again, missing clear maternal identification. One royal expert explained, "The birth certificate is a legal document that has to meet strict standards. Any irregularities or omissions immediately call the legitimacy of the birth into question." Adding fuel to the fire were reports from royal insiders who claimed that Meghan herself requested this secrecy, fearing backlash and scrutiny. According to these sources, Meghan was concerned that once the public knew too much about her pregnancy and childbirth, they would begin to scrutinize every detail, including the timing, the hospital, and even the paternity. This fear was not without precedent. The royal family has long guarded its secrets fiercely, and in recent years, the Sussexes have accused media outlets of invasions of privacy and unfair treatment. Meghan's team likely viewed the birth certificate as a potential vulnerability. In parallel, public records in the United States, where Meghan spent much of her time during pregnancy and early parenthood, showed no verifiable record of Archie's birth. While some argued this was irrelevant, given Archie was supposedly born in the UK, skeptics seized upon the absence of documentation anywhere else as suspicious. Questions about the place of birth were heightened by the lack of hospital photos or videos, which have become customary for royal births since Princess Diana's era. The Sussexes' decision to shroud the birth in secrecy, with no press coverage or official hospital visits, broke with decades of tradition. Meanwhile, anonymous royal aides shared with the press that the Sussex household had asked trusted photographers and medical professionals to maintain absolute silence. Those who breached confidentiality faced swift consequences. It wasn't just the birth certificate that raised eyebrows. Several healthcare professionals who worked with the Sussexes reportedly found themselves under strict confidentiality agreements. One nurse, speaking on condition of anonymity, hinted that Archie's birth had taken place under extraordinary circumstances, but refused to elaborate further. Adding to the intrigue, the Sussexes charity foundation, Archewell, briefly included Archie's name and birth date on its website, only to remove the details days later without explanation. This action was seen by many as another attempt to control the narrative. The pattern was clear. The Sussexes were determined to manage every aspect of Archie's birth story, from announcement to documentation to media coverage, all while denying the public full transparency. Legal experts noted that such secrecy is unusual for members of the royal family, who often embrace public scrutiny as part of their duty. The Sussexes' approach, many believed, was reflective of a more Hollywood-style privacy management, rather than traditional monarchy openness. As the public grappled with these revelations, media outlets began to dig deeper. Investigative journalists examined hospital records, interviewed sources close to the couple, and compared Archie's documentation with historical royal birth records. Their conclusion: the birth certificate mystery was not just an administrative anomaly, but a potential sign of a deeper, more troubling story. This narrative took a dramatic turn when rumors surfaced suggesting Archie's birth may have involved a surrogate mother. These rumors, initially dismissed by the Sussex camp as malicious gossip, gained traction when unnamed sources hinted that Meghan's pregnancies had been assisted, not through surrogacy alone, but through a complex arrangement involving multiple parties. Some reports claimed that the Sussexes employed fertility specialists to create a cover story, complete with fabricated pregnancy appearances and prosthetics, to mask the use of surrogacy or other reproductive technologies. While no official evidence has been provided to confirm these claims, the swirling rumors intensified public scrutiny and divided opinion. On one side, supporters decried the intrusion into private family matters, defending Meghan and Harry's right to privacy. On the other, Critics viewed the lack of transparency as proof of deception, calling for official clarification from the palace. Ultimately, the birth certificate mystery remains one of the most contentious elements in the ongoing saga. It symbolizes the gulf between the Sussexes' desire for privacy and the public's demand for transparency. More importantly, it encapsulates the broader questions surrounding Meghan Markle's pregnancies, questions that have fueled speculation about whether the children she claims to have borne are indeed hers, and whether the image of a pregnant duchess was carefully constructed for public consumption. As the controversy deepens, the birth certificate stands as a silent but potent symbol of uncertainty. Its gaps and inconsistencies speak volumes about a family in crisis and a monarchy struggling to reconcile tradition with modern celebrity culture. In the chapters ahead, we will explore the birth of Lilibet Diana and the escalating mysteries surrounding her arrival, as well as the growing evidence of prosthetic pregnancy aids and the fallout within the royal family. But for now, the question lingers: how much truth is hidden behind the official documents? And how much is left to be uncovered? The arrival of Lilibet Diana, the Sussexes' second child, was meant to be a joyful celebration, a continuation of the family story unfolding before the world's eyes. Instead, it became yet another chapter shrouded in mystery and whispered doubts that echoed louder than ever before. Unlike Archie's birth, which already had its share of inconsistencies, Lilibet's arrival introduced new questions about secrecy, identity, and the very nature of the birth itself. The announcement came swiftly, but with little detail. In early June 2021, the Sussexes shared a brief statement confirming that they had welcomed a daughter, named after the Queen and Princess Diana. The world reacted with a mixture of joy and curiosity, but details were scarce. Unlike most royal births, there were no photos, no public appearances, no hospital visits for cameras. The Sussexes chose to keep the details tightly under wraps, citing privacy concerns and respect for their child's safety. However, this extraordinary level of secrecy sparked speculation immediately. The lack of hospital photos, a staple of royal births for decades, raised eyebrows. In past generations, the press waited outside hospitals, eager to catch the first glimpse of newborn royals, and families often released official portraits within days. Lilibet's birth seemed to bypass all of that. Moreover, the location of Lilibet's birth remained undisclosed. Some reports suggested she was born in Santa Barbara, California, where the family had settled. Others claimed an alternative, undisclosed location. The absence of an official hospital name on birth records further fueled speculation. Whispers of a surrogate birth surfaced and spread rapidly. Anonymous sources close to the Sussex family hinted that Meghan may not have carried Lilibet herself, suggesting that a surrogate or other arrangements were involved. While the Sussex camp denied these claims categorically, the rumors persisted, fed by the family's tight control over information and the lack of transparent evidence. Adding to the intrigue, sources revealed that there were no known medical staff publicly associated with Lilibet's birth. No doctors or midwives stepped forward, no official statements from hospitals, and no typical postnatal visits documented. Insiders also reported that security measures around the family's residence intensified in the months surrounding Lilibet's arrival. Access to Frogmore Cottage, their UK home, was restricted far beyond usual levels. Palace officials and staff were ordered to maintain absolute confidentiality, with severe consequences for breaches. Such secrecy was unprecedented and gave rise to further speculation that the birth might have been staged or took place via surrogacy. Several royal commentators suggested that the couple may have gone to extraordinary lengths to shield Lilibet's birth from public scrutiny. Some experts in reproductive technologies noted that surrogacy has become increasingly common among celebrities and high-profile individuals seeking privacy. They speculated that if the Sussexes chose this route, it would explain the lack of conventional documentation and public appearances. Yet, to many, the idea that the daughter of a duchess could be born in such secrecy felt like a betrayal of royal tradition and public trust. In addition to birth secrecy, questions were raised about Lilibet's nationality and citizenship. Born in the United States, would she automatically be an American citizen? How would this affect her standing within the royal family and succession line? Legal experts debated these questions, noting that the Sussexes' choice to live outside the United Kingdom complicated matters. Some speculated that keeping details under wraps was part of a broader strategy to position Lilibet outside the traditional monarchy framework, signaling a break with royal customs. Beyond these legal and procedural uncertainties, there was an emotional dimension that few outside the family could fully understand. Sources close to the Sussexes described a household fraught with tension and anxiety during the pregnancy. Meghan, in particular, was said to be deeply concerned about public perception and the pressures of raising a royal child away from the palace. One former staffer noted, "There was a constant sense of fear of judgment, fear of intrusion, and fear that the public would never accept them fully." This fear may have contributed to the extreme measures taken to protect Lilibet's privacy, including the rumored use of surrogacy and the tightly controlled release of information. Interestingly, amidst the swirling rumors, a mysterious woman came forward, claiming to be involved in Lilibet's birth process. Speaking on condition of anonymity, she hinted at arrangements that involved legal agreements, payments, and non-disclosure contracts. Though her claims remain unverified, the mere existence of such a figure intensified public fascination and speculation. Meanwhile, royal experts weighed in on the potential impact of these controversies on the monarchy. One historian remarked, "The Sussexes are navigating an unprecedented path, blending Hollywood-style privacy with royal traditions." The fallout from Lilibet's birth secrecy may have lasting repercussions. Public opinion was deeply divided. Supporters applauded Meghan and Harry for protecting their child's privacy, emphasizing their right to raise their family as they see fit. Critics accused them of deceit and disrespecting the monarchy by breaking with tradition. Social media was ablaze with debates. Hashtags questioning Lilibet's birth trended regularly, and conspiracy theories proliferated across platforms. In response, the Sussexes maintained their silence, choosing to focus on charitable work and public appearances unrelated to the birth. Yet, the mystery lingered, feeding a narrative that Meghan's pregnancies were as much about image as reality. As this chapter closes, the truth about Lilibet Diana's birth remains elusive, locked behind palace walls and legal barriers. What is certain is that the secrecy surrounding her arrival has added another layer of complexity to the Sussexes' story, one that challenges expectations, raises profound questions, and continues to captivate the world. When Meghan Markle first appeared pregnant on the royal stage, few outside her immediate circle could have anticipated how much attention would focus on one peculiar detail: the shape, movement, and sometimes even the seeming instability of her baby bump. The term moon bump, a nickname coined by online observers to describe a prosthetic pregnancy belly, went from obscure Hollywood slang to the centerpiece of a viral exposé that would ripple through social media, traditional news outlets, and royal circles alike. This chapter explores how the moon bump theory, initially dismissed as conspiracy, gained unprecedented traction through the analysis of experts in costume design, medical professionals, and video analysts, ultimately reshaping public discourse around Meghan's pregnancies. The story begins with a series of viral clips showing Meghan in various public appearances where her bump appeared to shift unnaturally. Early on, viewers noticed something unusual. The bump seemed to defy typical pregnancy behavior. Instead of maintaining a consistent shape, it appeared to fold, jiggle, or even temporarily disappear in ways that no natural pregnancy belly should. One of the most scrutinized moments was a video clip where Meghan bends down quickly and the belly seemingly compresses upward before settling back into place. Such footage, often slowed down and dissected frame by frame, captivated social media users and sparked heated debates. For some, it was clear evidence of prosthetics, a moon bump. For others, it was an optical illusion, explained away by clothing, lighting, or camera angles. The breakthrough came when several professional costume designers and special effects artists stepped forward to provide expert analysis. One anonymous Hollywood costume designer, who had worked on multiple productions requiring realistic pregnancy prosthetics, described the features seen in Meghan's bump as classic indicators of a moon bump. The way the belly folds and moves, especially during quick movements, matches exactly how we design prosthetics for film and television, the designer explained. Real pregnancies don't behave like that. The flesh is part of the body, supported by muscles and ligaments, and doesn't compress or bounce in that way. This expert's testimony added weight to a growing body of evidence, prompting widespread media coverage. Several YouTube channels dedicated entire episodes to analyzing Meghan's bump, comparing her movements to those of pregnant actresses wearing prosthetics and to women genuinely pregnant. Slow-motion replays, digital enhancements, and side-by-side comparisons flooded the internet. Medical professionals also weighed in. A gynecologist interviewed by a major news outlet noted that real pregnancies show consistent abdominal contours and that certain movements, like rapid bending or squatting, do not cause the belly to fold or deflate in the way Meghan's bump appeared to. Meanwhile, other analysts pointed to the clothing choices as telling. Meghan was often seen wearing tight dresses or gowns made from fabrics known for their elasticity and thickness, which could conceal prosthetics. The attire also included strategic draping and ruching, techniques commonly used in costume design to hide artificial shapes. One particularly revealing moment occurred during a televised event when Meghan adjusted her dress mid-appearance. Observers noted a slight visible seam near her waistline, a possible attachment point for a prosthetic belly. Though this seam was never officially confirmed, it fueled speculation. The growing public obsession with the moon bump theory culminated in an unexpected viral video, posted by a special effects artist, who recreated Meghan's bump using realistic prosthetics and demonstrated how such a device could produce the movements and shapes seen in the footage. The video went viral, racking up millions of views within days. Commenters were polarized. Supporters accused the creator of defamation, while skeptics praised the demonstration as proof of what they already believed. The expose reached a tipping point when a respected royal correspondent cited insider information indicating that Meghan's team had consulted with costume professionals during her pregnancy, possibly to prepare for public appearances. While no direct evidence linked this consultation to the use of prosthetics, it added fuel to the fire. Social media became a battleground. Hashtags like #moonbump and #fakepregnancy trended worldwide. Memes, parodies, and serious debates filled timelines. Some royal fans distanced themselves, unsettled by the possibility of deception. Others rallied behind Meghan, dismissing the moonbump theory as cruel speculation and a racist smear campaign. Amid the chaos, Meghan's public relations team remained largely silent, issuing rare statements denouncing false and hurtful rumors without directly addressing the prosthetic allegations. The media frenzy led to a larger cultural conversation about privacy, gender, and motherhood. Many commentators questioned the intense scrutiny Meghan faced compared to previous royal pregnancies. Was the moonbump theory simply a manifestation of public obsession with controlling and policing women's bodies, especially those in the spotlight? Others argued that transparency was essential, especially for public figures held to high standards. The moonbump expose also sparked discussion about the blurred lines between celebrity culture and monarchy. Meghan, a Hollywood actress turned duchess, was navigating a hybrid world where performance, image, and reality often intertwine. Was her pregnancy a private, intimate experience, or a calculated public performance? This question struck at the heart of the controversy. As experts analyzed the footage and the public digested the revelations, the scandal took a new shape. One that questioned not only Meghan's honesty, but also the pressures and expectations placed upon her. The moonbump expose became emblematic of a larger story about identity, trust, and the cost of fame. What started as isolated observations about a bump's movement grew into a viral phenomenon that forced the royal family to confront unprecedented public scrutiny. The monarchy's usual silence was challenged by an online world hungry for answers. As this chapter closes, it is clear that the moonbump controversy is more than just a question of prosthetics. It is a symbol of fractured trust, shifting power dynamics, and the complex intersection of private lives and public roles. The next chapter will delve deeper into the emotional toll on Prince Harry, the man caught between loyalty to his wife and the family he left behind. Prince Harry's journey from beloved royal rebel to a man caught in the eye of a brewing storm is a tale of intense emotional conflict and heartbreak. Few outside his closest circle truly understand the depth of his struggle. Torn between unwavering loyalty to his wife, Meghan Markle, and the powerful pull of his birth family, the House of Windsor. This chapter explores the intimate psychological battle Harry faced as the moonbump controversy and questions about Meghan's pregnancies escalated behind closed doors. When Harry first met Meghan, it seemed as though he had found a partner who could help him escape the suffocating royal expectations that had weighed heavily on him since childhood. Meghan was his refuge, the person who made him feel seen and valued beyond his royal title. Their romance captivated the world, a modern love story crossing continents and cultures. Yet, beneath the fairy tale veneer, the seeds of conflict were quietly being sown. As whispers about Meghan's pregnancies began to surface, from strange movements of the bump to the growing mystery over birth certificates, Harry found himself at a crossroads. On one side was his commitment to Meghan, fueled by love, trust, and a shared desire for a new life outside the monarchy. On the other was the weight of his bloodline, family expectations, and the ever-watchful eyes of the press and public. Sources close to Harry reveal that the prince became increasingly isolated during this period. The very family he had chosen to distance himself from was now re-emerging with questions and accusations, pushing him into uncomfortable territory. Private conversations with his father, King Charles, and brother, Prince William, reportedly grew tense as these issues came to the fore. One insider described a pivotal moment when Harry met Charles for a private discussion. Charles didn't mince words, the source said. He presented Harry with evidence and asked tough questions about Meghan's pregnancies. It was a moment of reckoning. Harry was reportedly shocked but conflicted. The man who had been his lifelong mentor was now confronting him with doubts about the woman he loved and the family they were building. The tension between father and son was palpable, with Harry caught between defense and doubt. Adding to his turmoil was the media storm swirling around the Sussexes. Headlines questioned Meghan's honesty, with tabloids and social media users dissecting every public appearance, every smile, and every gesture. The relentless scrutiny took a toll on Harry's mental health, a battle he had been fighting quietly for years. Friends of Harry noted a marked change in his demeanor. Once playful and spirited, he became withdrawn and guarded. At times, he seemed haunted by the impossible choices before him. "My heart broke for him," said a close confidant. He was stuck between protecting his wife and preserving his family. It tore him apart. At the same time, Harry's loyalty to Meghan was unshaken. Despite the rumors and accusations, he stood by her publicly, defending her against what he called relentless bullying and false narratives. Yet, privately, he grappled with questions he dared not voice aloud. Did Meghan truly carry their children? Was the family they presented to the world the one they shared in reality? The prince's internal conflict was further complicated by the arrival of the damning envelope from King Charles, reportedly handed to him during a recent royal engagement. Though the contents remain officially undisclosed, insiders claim the envelope contained evidence challenging Meghan's claims about her pregnancies, including surveillance reports, expert analyses, and statements from palace staff. Harry's reaction was reportedly one of shock and confusion. For a man who had spent years defending Meghan against the establishment, this moment forced him to reconsider what he believed. Harry felt betrayed, an insider said. Not just by the palace, but by Meghan. It was a crushing realization. Sources suggest that this moment marked a turning point in Harry's relationship with Meghan. Their marriage, already strained by external pressures, began to show cracks as doubt crept in. Yet, Harry's love and sense of duty kept him tethered. He struggled to reconcile the woman he loved with the evidence he was being shown. Psychologists studying Harry's situation note that this kind of cognitive dissonance, holding two conflicting beliefs about someone close, can cause deep emotional pain and confusion. It's a classic case of conflict between loyalty and reality, said Dr. Elaine Matthews, a clinical psychologist specializing in family dynamics. Harry's position is incredibly challenging. To protect Meghan, he must deny what he is being told. To accept the evidence, he must question his love and identity. Harry's inner battle played out not only in private, but also in his public engagements. Observers noted moments where he appeared distracted, withdrawn, or burdened, especially during appearances related to family events or charity work connected to his royal past. One notable incident occurred during a formal event at Windsor Castle. Harry, dressed impeccably, was seen briefly glancing away from Meghan as she greeted guests, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. Photographers caught the moment, sparking speculation that Harry's loyalty was wavering. Meanwhile, Harry began to seek solace in close friends and mental health professionals, working through his conflicted emotions. He reportedly engaged in long conversations with trusted advisors about the future of his marriage, family, and royal duties. Some insiders say Harry contemplated a dramatic break, a divorce, or permanent separation, but hesitated due to the potential impact on their children and public image. The prince's struggle was further compounded by the presence of powerful figures within the royal family who were determined to protect the institution at all costs. Their discreet campaigns to discredit Meghan and influence Harry's decisions added layers of pressure and manipulation. In this high-stakes emotional chess game, Harry found himself a pawn, a king, and a victim all at once. Despite it all, Harry's sense of honor and desire to protect his family prevailed. He remained publicly supportive of Meghan, even as doubts gnawed at him. The chapter of Harry's struggle is one of heartbreaking complexity, a man caught between love and loyalty, truth and deception, past and future. As the royal saga continues to unfold, the question remains, will Harry find peace in his choices, or will the weight of these betrayals fracture the family forever? The next chapter will reveal the secret investigations launched by the palace and the shadowy forces working behind the scenes to uncover the truth. Behind the glittering facade of the British monarchy lies a web of quiet power, discretion, and an intricate intelligence apparatus tasked with safeguarding the royal family's image and legacy. Known colloquially within royal circles as the firm, this shadowy institution has long managed crises discreetly, from scandals and affairs to potential threats against the crown. And when rumors about Meghan Markle's pregnancies began to swirl with unprecedented intensity, the firm reportedly sprang into action with a secret investigation that would shake the Sussexes to their core. The investigation was not publicly acknowledged at the time, but insiders now confirm that the firm mobilized a specialized team of operatives, including MI5 officers, private investigators, and surveillance experts, to examine the allegations regarding Meghan's alleged use of prosthetic pregnancy bellies, surrogacy claims, and birth certificate inconsistencies. According to leaked sources, the operation was spearheaded by senior palace officials under King Charles's directive, who reportedly felt the need to get to the bottom of the swirling doubts once and for all. The goal was to compile irrefutable evidence, not only to protect the monarchy, but to inform King Charles's delicate relationship with his son and daughter-in-law. Sources describe a methodical, multi-layered approach to the investigation. Surveillance teams monitored Meghan's movements during pregnancy periods, seeking to detect any unusual behavior or visits to clandestine locations. Investigators conducted discreet interviews with palace staff, medical personnel, and close associates of the Sussexes. Digital forensics experts combed through social media posts, emails, and phone records looking for inconsistencies or leaks. One source familiar with the investigation revealed, the firm treated this with the utmost seriousness. They knew that if these rumors gained traction without proper verification, it could threaten the entire institution. But they also understood that if there was truth to the claims, it needed to be confronted. Among the most significant findings reportedly were surveillance recordings that showed Meghan entering rooms within royal residences known to be used for wardrobe fittings, rather than medical checkups. These rooms, described earlier by palace aides, were where prosthetics could be applied or removed. Investigators also gathered testimonies from palace staff who recounted instances where Meghan's bump appeared to change size or shape unexpectedly. Several staff members, previously reluctant to speak, provided detailed accounts under assurances of confidentiality. The inquiry extended beyond palace grounds. Private detectives were said to have trailed Meghan and Harry during their travels to Canada, California, and other locations, attempting to uncover evidence of surrogate arrangements or other reproductive technologies. One particularly intriguing aspect involved the review of medical records, though these were difficult to obtain due to privacy laws and the couple's insistence on confidentiality. However, Reports indicate that some medical professionals who worked with the Sussexes were interviewed under non-disclosure agreements, hinting at the complex legal barriers surrounding the investigation. Furthermore, the investigation examined communications between Meghan and certain Hollywood figures known for involvement in privacy management and image consulting. This led to speculation that Meghan's team may have coordinated efforts to control the narrative, including the use of prosthetics or staged appearances. Body language experts were consulted to analyze videos and photos of Meghan during pregnancy, with some concluding that her posture and movements were consistent with the use of artificial pregnancy aids. All findings were compiled into a comprehensive dossier, reportedly presented to King Charles in a private meeting with Prince Harry. This dossier formed the basis of the envelope Harry was seen receiving during that now-famous handshake, containing the evidence and recommendations for the royal family's next steps. The existence of such an investigation underscores the gravity with which the monarchy views threats to its legitimacy and the lengths it will go to protect itself. For Harry and Meghan, it signaled a clear message that their actions and narratives were under intense scrutiny and that loyalty to the family came with expectations of transparency and conformity. The psychological impact on Harry was profound. Torn between his love for Meghan and the overwhelming pressure from his family's intelligence network, he was forced to confront uncomfortable truths and make decisions that would define his future. Meghan, meanwhile, became increasingly isolated as whispers of the investigation leaked into the press, despite palace attempts to contain the story. The veil of secrecy surrounding her pregnancies began to lift in public consciousness, fueled by the steady drip of information coming from anonymous insiders and investigative journalists. The investigation also triggered a shift within royal security protocols. Increased surveillance around Sussex family properties, stricter vetting of staff, and enhanced cyber monitoring were put in place, all designed to prevent further leaks and control the flow of information. Some critics argue that the firm's actions amounted to an invasion of privacy and undue pressure on a young couple trying to carve out their own path. Others view it as a necessary step to maintain the integrity of the monarchy in an era of unrelenting public scrutiny. This clandestine operation revealed much about the dynamics within the royal family, the fragility beneath the pomp and ceremony, the battle for control over narratives, and the clash between tradition and modernity. As the Sussex saga unfolds, the secret investigation remains a pivotal chapter, illuminating the forces shaping the future of the monarchy and the personal struggles of those caught in its grasp. Next, we will explore the moment that became a symbol of the rift, the handshake between Prince Harry and King Charles, and the envelope that changed everything. In the annals of royal history, few moments have sparked as much intrigue and speculation as the brief, almost casual handshake between Prince Harry and King Charles that took place during a recent official engagement. Though it lasted only seconds and was captured fleetingly by a handful of cameras, the significance of this exchange has reverberated far beyond the garden where it occurred, symbolizing a turning point in the fractured relationship between father and son, and a silent confirmation of secrets long kept in shadows. The event was carefully choreographed, a public appearance meant to signal reconciliation after years of estrangement and tension following Harry and Meghan's departure from royal duties. Yet, amid the pomp and polite conversation, something unexpected happened, something that was seen by a sharp-eyed palace aide and later leaked to the press. As King Charles extended his hand to Harry, the prince hesitated for a fraction of a second, a fleeting expression crossing his face, surprise, confusion, or perhaps resignation. When their hands finally met, the king slipped a small, folded manila envelope into Harry's palm. The cameras, focused on the smiling faces and elegant attire, missed the exchange, but those close to the scene were struck by its gravity. This envelope was reportedly no ordinary document. Sources suggest it contained the findings of the secret investigation into Meghan Markle's pregnancies. A dossier filled with surveillance reports, testimonies from palace staff, and expert analyses that called into question the authenticity of the pregnancies and the use of prosthetic aids. The symbolism of the handshake and the transfer of the envelope was not lost on royal observers. It was seen as a clear message from Charles to Harry. The truth was out, and the royal family was ready to confront it. Prince Harry's reaction was measured but unmistakable. After the handshake, his expression grew solemn, and he retreated to a private room shortly after the event, refusing to comment to the press. The stark contrast between the warm public facade and the private tension underscored the complexity of the moment. Palace insiders report that in the minutes following the handshake, Harry engaged in intense discussions with senior advisors, grappling with the contents of the envelope and what it meant for his marriage, his family, and his future. For Meghan Markle, who was present nearby during the engagement, the moment was devastating. Reports indicate that she became visibly pale upon noticing the envelope exchange, and soon after, she withdrew from the public eye for several days, canceling appearances and going into near-total isolation. Leaked accounts describe a frantic period in the Sussex household, with Meghan contacting lawyers and public relations teams, seeking to control the fallout and mitigate the damage. The envelope had effectively shattered the fragile peace. The public, meanwhile, was left to interpret the moment through incomplete footage and leaked reports. Media outlets worldwide debated the significance of the handshake, with commentators calling it a passing of a heavy burden and the silent admission of a royal fracture. Social media erupted with speculation. Was this the beginning of a royal reckoning? Had Harry been handed proof that his wife had deceived him? Or was the envelope a diplomatic gesture, a call for transparency? The handshake also ignited fresh discussions about the nature of loyalty and betrayal within the royal family. For many, it symbolized Harry's painful choice between standing by Meghan and acknowledging his family's concerns. Experts in royal protocol noted that such an envelope exchange during a public event was highly unusual, underscoring the urgency and sensitivity of the matter. Normally, confidential information is shared behind closed doors, not in moments captured by cameras. The moment's rarity only fueled speculation about the contents and its implications. Some royal watchers speculated that the envelope might include not only evidence about the pregnancies, but also recommendations for Harry's role in the monarchy going forward, possibly including a demand for severing public ties with Meghan. The impact of the handshake extended beyond the individuals involved. It sent a clear signal to royal staff, palace aides, and the public that the era of secrecy and denial was coming to an end. This public yet private exchange became a defining moment in the Sussex story, a hinge on which relationships, reputations, and futures would turn. In the days following, reports emerged that the handshake led to intense discussions within the family about how to handle the growing scandal, including potential media strategies and legal actions. Meanwhile, Harry was reportedly wrestling with a surge of emotions: betrayal, confusion, anger, and sorrow, all intensified by the very public nature of the event. The handshake, though brief, encapsulated the complexity of a family torn between tradition and change, love and loyalty, truth and deception. It was a moment witnessed by millions yet understood fully by only a few, a silent confrontation that would echo through royal history. As this chapter closes, the fallout from the handshake is just beginning. The next chapter will explore Meghan's frantic reaction, her efforts to control the narrative, and the personal and public consequences of the moment that changed everything. The moment Prince Harry received the envelope from King Charles during the handshake was more than a simple exchange of documents. It was a catalyst that set off a chain reaction of fear, anger, and desperation within Meghan Markle's inner circle. Behind the polished veneer of royal composure, Meghan's reaction was anything but calm. In the hours and days following that brief encounter, reports paint a picture of a woman thrown into a state of panic, scrambling to regain control as her carefully crafted world began to unravel. Close sources reveal that Meghan first became aware of the envelope's significance almost immediately. Though the public could only see a friendly handshake, Meghan's trained eyes and the subtle expressions of those around her suggested something was amiss. According to insiders, she was visibly shaken, her usually steady demeanor cracked by an overwhelming sense of betrayal and fear. She knew what was inside, said one palace aide who witnessed her reaction. Her face went pale, and she barely spoke for the next several minutes. As the engagement ended, Meghan reportedly withdrew to a private room, distancing herself from the press, royal staff, and even Harry. There, she began a series of urgent phone calls, first to her legal team, then to her trusted public relations advisors. The urgency was palpable. Her team scrambled to assess the potential fallout, aware that the envelope could contain damaging evidence about the authenticity of her pregnancies, allegations that, if publicized, could irreparably harm her reputation. One source close to Meghan described the ensuing chaos as controlled panic. Every move was calculated, every statement scrutinized, as the Duchess and her team devised strategies to counter the impending storm. Among their first actions was an attempt to suppress media coverage of the handshake and the envelope. Legal representatives reportedly sent cease and desist letters to news outlets preparing stories, warning of potential libel and threatening legal action. Simultaneously, Meghan's PR team sought to pivot the narrative. Plans were drafted to highlight her charitable work, maternal devotion, and the couple's commitment to public service. Efforts designed to redirect attention away from the controversy and toward positive public perception. Yet, controlling the narrative proved difficult. Social media buzzed with speculation, and anonymous sources leaked tidbits that made headlines across the globe. Meghan's panic deepened when the story spread beyond royal gossip columns to mainstream news. The possibility that her pregnancies might have been fabricated or staged struck at the core of her public identity. Compounding the stress was the strain on her marriage. Reports suggest that Meghan confronted Harry with the contents of the envelope, leading to intense and emotional discussions. The prince, torn between loyalty and the undeniable evidence presented, faced an impossible dilemma. Despite these private conflicts, Meghan maintained a public front of grace and strength. She continued to attend select events, carefully managing her appearances to project resilience. However, close friends noted that behind closed doors, she was increasingly withdrawn, anxious, and distrusting. The Duchess's reliance on a close circle of confidants grew, as did her fear of betrayal. Staff turnover within her household increased, with some aides leaving reportedly due to the mounting pressure and the intense atmosphere. This atmosphere of fear extended to those tasked with protecting Meghan and her privacy. Security personnel faced heightened challenges, balancing the need to shield her from media intrusion with the necessity of monitoring internal leaks. Legal battles intensified as Meghan's team sought injunctions against publications reporting on the envelope and related allegations. These efforts met with mixed success, often fueling further speculation and public interest. In an effort to regain control, Meghan reportedly considered producing her own documentary or media project to tell her side of the story, hoping to counteract negative narratives with her personal perspective. While these plans never fully materialized, the mere suggestion heightened tensions within royal and media circles. Public opinion during this period was deeply divided. Loyal supporters rallied around Meghan, condemning what they viewed as a calculated smear campaign rooted in racism and misogyny. Critics, however, felt vindicated by the emerging evidence and called for transparency and accountability. Amid the turmoil, Meghan's mental and emotional health became a growing concern. Sources close to the couple revealed that she struggled with anxiety and feelings of isolation, exacerbated by the relentless media scrutiny and family conflicts. Therapists and counselors were reportedly engaged to support her, emphasizing the importance of self-care amid unprecedented pressures. The Duchess's panic and frantic efforts to manage the crisis underscore the human toll behind the headlines. Behind the glamour and controversy is a woman grappling with profound challenges to her identity, privacy, and future. As this chapter concludes, it becomes clear that the moment of the handshake and the envelope's contents were not just about facts or evidence, but about the unraveling of trust, love, and family. The next chapter will explore how Hollywood and Meghan's circle reacted to the scandal, and how allies began to distance themselves amid mounting doubts.